Hello and welcome. Today, we are jumping into one of the most powerful and I think coolest tools in the English language, conditional sentences. And trust me, these are way more than just boring grammar rules. They're like keys that unlock a bunch of different realities, from hard science all the way to your wildest dreams. So let's get into it. So what if I told you that just one word, the word if, could do all that? It's a tiny little word, but wow, it packs a massive punch. It lets us build these entire worlds of possibility and probability and just pure imagination. We can talk about what could be, what might have been, and what we wish would happen. So how does this little word pull it off? Okay, so here's the basic blueprint. Every single conditional sentence has this two-part structure. First, you've got the if clause. That's the condition, the what if part. And then you have the main clause. That's the result, the what happens part. And here's a quick pro tip. See the comma? If that if clause comes first, you gotta have the comma. But if you flip it and the if clause comes second, you can ditch the comma. Simple, I know, but absolutely crucial. Right, our journey through this matrix of if begins in the land of absolute certainty. We're starting with the zero conditional. This is for things that are always 100% true. No exceptions, zero doubt. Think of this as the automatic cause and effect conditional. It's for the laws of physics, general truths, and habits that are totally predictable. In fact, the word if is so reliable here, you could almost always just swap it out for the word when, and the meaning stays exactly the same. And the structure? It couldn't be easier. Both the if clause and the main clause use the simple present tense. It's like a perfect grammatical mirror, right? It reflects that one action just automatically and always follows the other. Simple present in, simple present out. And you can see this in action everywhere. Take scientific facts, for example. If you drop ice in water, it floats. It just does, every single time. It also works for personal truths, your own habits. If I drink too much coffee, I get a headache. For me, that cause always leads to that effect. This conditional is basically the foundation of our reality. All right, let's build on that. We're now leaving that world of absolute certainty and we're stepping into the realm of the likely future. So, welcome to the first conditional. This is probably the conditional you use the most in your day-to-day life. It's your bread and butter. It's not for those universal truths, but for real, concrete situations in the present or the future. It's the grammar you use for making plans, for making promises, for making predictions about things you genuinely think could happen. Now notice the little switch up here in the main clause. The if clause, that still stays in the simple present. But the result clause, it jumps into the future with words like will, or can, or must. That structure is how we signal a real potential link between something we do now and what could happen later. Let's look at a few. If it rains, we will stay home. Sounds like a perfectly realistic plan, right? Or if you see John, tell him I called. That's a very likely request. And of course, if you finish your homework, you can watch TV. Permission based on a very possible condition. It's all about real possibilities in the near future. And hey, here's a little pro tip for the first conditional. You can often replace if not with the word unless. The meaning is exactly the same, but unless is usually a bit more concise and it can sound a little more polished. So they won't hire you if you don't have experience, just becomes they won't hire you unless you have experience. It's a really handy tool to have in your back pocket. Okay, now we're going to take a much bigger leap. We're leaving reality behind completely and entering the world of the hypothetical, the imaginary. This is the territory of the second conditional. This is where the fun really starts. The second conditional is all about situations in the present or future that are either super unlikely or flat out impossible. This is the language of daydreams, of wishes, and it's one of the most common ways we give people advice. So how does the grammar actually show us that we're in imagination land? Well, this is the key. The if clause uses the simple past tense. Now, we're not talking about the past here. We're using the past tense to create distance from reality. It's a signal, and the result clause then uses would or could. That combination is our ticket into an imaginary world. Let's see how this plays out. If I won the lottery, that's the classic unlikely dream, right?
Or, if I lived by the beach, I don't, so that's an unreal present situation. And then you've got the classic advice form. If I were you, which is literally impossible, and that's what makes it such a polite and effective way to give someone strong advice.
And this brings us right to that classic was versus were debate. Now, you'll hear if I was all the time in casual speech, and that's fine. But the formally correct version is if I were. Using were for everyone, I, he, she, it, is something called the subjunctive mood. Don't worry about the fancy name. Just think of it as a special grammar flag that shouts, hey, what I'm saying right now is 100% hypothetical. Okay, for our final stop on this tour, we're going to do the impossible. We're going to travel back in time. We're about to enter the unchangeable past, just so we can imagine what might have been. This is the third conditional. This conditional, it's got some real emotional weight to it. It's the language of if only. We use it to talk about things that did not happen in the past, so we can imagine a totally different result. And that makes it the perfect tool for expressing regret, for criticizing past actions, or even just for analyzing a different path in history. Now, this structure here is definitely the most complex, but there is a really good reason. We need some seriously special grammar to rebuild the past. The if clause uses the past perfect tense. So if I had done something, and the result clause uses would have plus the past participle. This whole structure works together to build a complete imaginary past scenario. And man, you can really feel the power in these examples. I could have passed the exam if I had studied harder. That is just pure regret, isn't it? Or if you had been honest, none of this would have happened. That's a sharp criticism of a choice someone made in the past. You can feel the weight of what could have been, but just wasn't. So if you take away only one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this. Just look at the difference here. The first conditional, if I study, I will pass. It's hopeful. It's about the future. It's a possibility. Now the third conditional, if I had studied, I would have passed. It's all about past regret. A tiny change in the grammar completely flips the meaning and the emotion. That right there is the power of precision. So let's do a super quick recap of our journey. Step 1, the zero conditional. That's for universal facts. Step 2, the first, that's for your real future plans. Step 3, the second, that's for your dreams and giving advice. And step 4, the third, for looking back at the past with regret. 4 distinct tools for 4 very different ways of seeing the world. And I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. Beyond just the grammar, how does the very structure of these what-ifs, the way we're kind of forced to frame our hopes and our dreams and our regrets, how does that actually shape how we see our own lives, our mistakes, our opportunities? Does the language we use condition us? Something to think about. Thanks for watching.